parish, and I want to thank you as somebody new to the place. It's amazing. So, thank you. You know, 7 years ago, 2008, and I will never forget it, and I'm going to have to play with this mic until it gets right. I will never forget that I stood on this stage, and actually I say stood, sat on this stage right here as this diocese voted to excommunicate ourselves with the Episcopal Church. And I don't know why those things kind of hang with you, but right here I can remember the floor, and I can remember the vote, and I can remember how I knew that this was exactly where God was having us go, what He was having us do, that we were working with Him. But I also remember thinking back, because I'm a cradle Episcopalian, been in this church a long time. And I sat back and I said, you know, in part, I can see how this happened. I can see why we're here taking this vote right this second. It's because we didn't disciple. We didn't teach. My confirmation class, so many years ago, was 2 Sundays sitting on the front pew at St. John's Episcopal Church. It was a quick one. It was just, this is communion, this is how you take it, and there, you're good. You know, we did build some wonderful churches, and this one certainly is one of them. But then we went inside and we forgot to evangelize. And quite honestly, once 2008 came, we found ourselves in strife. We found ourselves in the eyesight of a lawsuit, quite honestly. And yes, we all kind of experienced that lull. And I think we all know what we're talking about. As we looked across the diocese, we lost membership. We lost momentum. We lost our zeal for the Anglican Church. It's kind of like that fighting family that you just don't want anybody to see, of course, and so you don't invite anybody in. In 7 years, God has let us walk in this wilderness. But you know, in these 7 years, other things have been going on around us. This diocese has been caught in a lawsuit. This diocese has kind of been caught in this malaise, so to speak. But in the province of the United States of America, the ACNA, the province that we're now a member of, they were busy. Missions were founded. Churches built. And that's all fine and great. You know, as we look out, we say it's great. I'm glad that they're evangelizing. I'm glad they're doing the work. But I have to say, as I went and visited in Pittsburgh, as I went and visited up north, the parishes just didn't look like ours. They were different. And I got to take a break here and say, I believe that the diversity of the Anglican communion is what makes our communion so special. We're not lockstep. You go to one church, it's high mass. You go to another church, it's contemporary service. You go to another, and it's morning prayer. And that's wonderful. But at the end of it, what we do in Mass, how we worship God, really amounts to more or less window dressing. Because it's what's behind it that really matters. What's behind worship? What is the theology we espouse? What do we believe in? Now, here in the Diocese of Fort Worth, we believe that we have to have a foundation of faith. Something that is at the very center, the very core. You know, whether or not you genuflect, whether or not you have incense at Mass, whether or not You might hold Marian, theology is one thing. But this is the core. This is what we have to have for salvation. 3 creeds, 7 councils, and 7 sacraments. And this kind of begs the question as we think about what this new province is going to look like. The question we need to ask is, what's this new province going to look like? What are we into right now? And it all gets back to the number 7, quite honestly. 7 is God's number of divine completion. And I think God is complete with us. Because you might wonder, why review all this stuff that's in the past, and especially the stuff that we don't like to listen to think about. We have to know where we're from to know where we're going. And that's what tonight's talk's about. As I stand here at St. Peter and St. Paul, I have to say, this is one of the most vibrant churches I've ever walked into. You guys are unbelievable. I've been a curate or a pastor or a vicar or a rector of what? 5, 6, 7 churches now. And this one has something special. And I'm telling you that as I came on board here, I felt like God was pushing me to something. I mean, that's the whole reason I got into this search in the first place. God was pushing me. I know what it feels like. I knew when it happened. God is pushing me somewhere. He's pushing me to do something more. And then when I found out what St. Peter and what St. Paul was really about, and what you guys were all about, I said, I know what it is now. God is ready for the Anglican Church to flourish again. We've walked this wilderness, and God's ready for us to grow. 7 weeks ago, I began work here at St. Peter and St. Paul. What's not known is that the Israelites, when they left Egypt, did you realize they wandered 7 weeks till they got to Mount Zion? They got the 10 Commandments, and God told them after 7 weeks, go, I will show you the promised land. You know, we all hear the 40-year thing. It didn't start out that way. It was supposed to be a 7 short-week tour. We've heard that somewhere before. They sent out spies to the promised land because they wanted to know where God was sending them. They wanted to know what was over that next hill. The spies came back and said, you do not want to go there. There are giants there. Huge people, lots of armies, all armed to the hilt. They're going to kill us all. Moses turned around to God and said, God, you sure what we're doing here? The Israelites all looked back at Moses and said, we are not going there. It's just too difficult. God said, fine. I'll let this generation die off. You'll wander the wilderness for years until this generation dies, and then I'll take you back to the promised land, and then we'll see if you're ready to go in. It's something I think we don't think about too much, but it's something we should think about now. We have had our wilderness experience. Now we are at the 7-year mark. It is time for us to leave what is behind us and go boldly into that province that God has gifted us. And it is time that wonderful parishes like this one takes its place as the leader of that new province, to make certain that as we build this new province, as we put it together from the very beginning, that it's made right. That we are focused on right theology and not just how we say Mass. That we're focused on discipleship. That we know what we believe, that we know why we're an Anglican. Why are we Anglican instead of Baptist, or Anglican instead of Presbyterian, or Anglican instead of Lutheran, or Anglican instead of Roman Catholic? Do we know this? This is important. This is what we're going to be all about. Now they'd asked me, Don and Joe that is, to come up here and talk about kind of what I was thinking about, what I'm going to be looking at, where I'm going to lead St. Peter and St. Paul. And of course, there's no better place than in Matthew, the Great Commission. And Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you to the end of the age. You know, we have seen this so many times. Quite honestly, it can frustrate us. Because as we talk about going out, we have to stop and we say, how do we do this? I mean, Jesus told the disciples, go, make disciples. And if I said go and make disciples, you might say, you know, it's fine, but how? Got a busy calendar. I work. I can't do all this at once. How do we do this? But let me tell you right now, it's not hard. So many of you are already doing it. Believe it or not, you don't even know it. Now I'll tell you why. There are 7 easy steps to this, and this is what we're going to be looking at in this next year and in this next few years. First step is we worship. We never forget that God is our source of authority, our source of strength and courage. We must never lose sight that this is our center as Christians. We have to come to church. And what's wonderful is I've noticed over the past 7 Sundays or so, we've come to church. And I thank you, but we have to make certain that we continue filling those pews. Why? So many people say, why every Sunday? Well, number one, for our own well-being. This is where we gain our spiritual core. This is where we have our anchor. This is where we have encouragement from others. This is where we are encouraged to be good Christians. But also, make no mistake, when visitors come and see St. Peter and St. Paul, they want to see a full church. If they walk in and see a half-full church, they kind of say, no, this is kind of lukewarm. Maybe we'll go see what Tate Baptist is doing. We've got to have that full church ready to receive whoever walks through these doors. The next thing is disciple. We are going to disciple here. What does that mean? Well, a disciple is one who follows, one who is taught, one who is a student. How well do we know the faith that God has gifted us? As I said before, do we know why we're Anglican instead of Baptist? And it cannot just simply be, well, my friends are here, and that's nice, without a doubt. You might even like the guy who preaches the sermon every now and then, and that's nice, without a doubt. It's not the reason, though. The theology behind it, we must sit for discipleship. We must be taught. And we have to submit to that. I know that's an ugly word, submit. We don't like it. We have to sit and learn. And as we sit and learn, as we are discipled, we can then go. Go. Get out there in the communities. Pick up a ministry. Go and teach everybody else what you've been taught. Share what you know. Share God. Because quite honestly, I have been over this throughout the years, believe me. Yes, I've looked at the Roman Catholic Church. Yes, I've looked at the Orthodox Church. Yes, I've looked at it all. Anglicanism's theology is the soundest. This is the place to be. It's a sound theology, and it's one that quite honestly spreads God and His Word and His saving grace as easy and as well as any of them. We kind of keep it like a treasure chest in here, you know? It's kind of like we know it, and so we all kind of sit. Believe me, once we evangelize, once we get out there and talk about it, it will spread like wildfire. It's a wonderful theology. We must go. But you know, too many of us stop here. Quite honestly, this is the stumbling block to every Anglican church that I've been in so far. We'll come to church, we will worship, we'll even go to class and learn, confirmation class, catechism class, discipleship, whatever. We will come in and learn, but then when the clergy and when the leaders and the lay leadership say go, it's kind of like, no. And when you say why, and you say, well, there's scary people out there, I can't go out there. What am I going to say? Am I actually supposed to go out to parties and places and talk about God? And yeah, you are. It's not hard. Trust me. What's more, God is asking us to go. God is calling. In Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1 through 9, one of my favorite verses of the entire Bible. King Uzziah died. I saw the Lord sitting upon the throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet. With 2 he flew. The imagery here is wonderful of heaven. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called. And the house was filled with smoke. See, there is incense in heaven. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphim to me, having in his hand a burning coal, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is forgiven. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And then I said, Here I am. Send me. Here I am. Send me. This is our call. This is it. Here I am. Send me. God is literally begging us. Where are those that I'm going to send out? To the lost, to those that have strayed from church, to those that are having problems in their families, to those who have never been in church before. Who's going to go out there? Here I am. Send me. How do we do this again? It's back to the how. It all sounds great, but how do we do it? Well, quite honestly, you've been doing it already. Make a friend. What I'm going to be encouraging everybody to do over and over again is to go out and make a friend. You might already have a friend, quite honestly. Does everybody have a friend? I mean, we do. You would be amazed on what you don't know about your friends' churchmanship. I've known people time and time again that have known people forever, and they didn't know that they had kind of strayed away from their church, that they weren't going as they were supposed to. They didn't realize that they hadn't been to church in years. They didn't realize that they were lonely, still looking for God. They didn't realize that somebody, maybe a priest or a pastor or who knows who, had kind of offended them in some way or another, and they had strayed. They didn't know it because they didn't ask. Well, that's why we have to be a friend as well. To stick with these people. Make a friend. Be a friend. And yes, bring a friend to Christ. You see, because once you've been discipled, once you know why you're an Anglican, it's okay. When you're with your friend, you can talk to them about things of religion. You can talk to them about Christ. You can talk to them of what we have here at St. Peter and St. Paul, which is nothing short of remarkable. This is a wonderful place. You know, when you see a really good movie, and you leave the theater and you're still thinking about it, talking about it, you wake up the next morning, you go to work, and you have got to see this movie. You're talking to everybody. I had a lady in Good Shepherd that used to come to church on Sunday and give me $7, you have to go see this movie. I sat through more movies because, Hazel made me go see this movie. I mean, if she did half of that with her other friends about coming to church, how great would that be? This is a wonderful place. This is a wonderful place. And I know Joe talking about the autopsy of a church, and I picked it up and you sent me a copy, so of course I read it. And there are some places that kind of, but believe me, you'd be amazed on how deeper we can go in this cavern. Peter and Paul is nowhere near this, but it can go there. We're on top. And yeah, we may be kind of on a little plateau here. Believe me, you don't want to go into the recline, because it takes TNT to get you out of recline. I've been there as a pastor, as a rector of a church that needed that. It's not fun, it's not ready, it can be done. We don't want to go there. We have got to go out, make a friend, be a friend, bring a friend to Christ, and then we disciple them. And then what do? We begin again. Same routine, over and over again. But you know what? We must grow. We must disciple because God commands it. He commands it. We must also grow because, quite honestly, if you're not growing, you're dying. This is the cardinal rule of churches. Trust me. If you are not growing, you are dying. We must grow. We must grow because this place is just too good to die, quite honestly. We must grow also because this province needs the Anglo-Catholic witness that we can provide. Right now, when you look across the province and you look at growing churches, they just don't look like anything I see in Fort Worth. And quite honestly, most of them say, well, that's the only way we can grow. I beg to differ. We can do this. We can do this here. We can grow. I want this place in the next 7 years to double. But honestly, what I want doesn't really matter. Do we want it to double in 7 years? Are we willing to say, yes, I want to double this place in 7 years? That's what I thought we had here. We have to grow. We have to grow because, honestly, God is calling us to grow. 7. 7 is the number of divine completion. God is ready. Who amongst us is ready? Whom will I send? Ask the Lord. In 7 years, I want to look back at this and see a parish of about 1,000 strong. And I want to say in the next 7 years, we're going to plant 2 more missions in this diocese. And that'll be the new challenge.